Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the first book in the Folk of the Air series called The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I have my notes here, so I'll just be talking about the general stuff of what caught my eye while reading, and then later on I'll be going through a little character analysis that I did. However, with the character analysis, this is just my opinion, so it could be totally wrong or it could be totally right. It doesn't really matter to me if you disagree or agree. However, as per usual, there will be spoilers, so I will warn you now that there will be spoilers after the intro, so just forewarn. And also I'll leave a little timestamp in the description if you want to skip to that when I give my whole rating and my overall thoughts of reading this book. The Cruel Prince, the story starts off with Jude, her sister Vivi, and Taran. Their parents were killed off by Vivi's biological father named Maddox, and then he took them from the human world back to Elfhame. But it just also flip-flops, goes in between the human world and also Elfhame. The whole story is told from Jude's point of view, and then when we first meet Cardan, he rips off a fairy wing for disrespecting him. Basically, the fairy wouldn't bow to him when he was walking. And then Jude and Taran go to this fairy school to learn about the customs and the culture of Elfhame. I also said Nicasia kind of pisses me off because her whole attitude kind of gives me flashbacks of when I was in school and I saw that kind of stuff happen to people that I went to school with. I liked how Jude kind of shares her vulnerability with the readers when she tells the readers that she lost her hand or her finger, and then I don't know, I just the whole vulnerability thing she does is very touching because it's she's saying this out loud to herself, but when you're reading it, it's kind of oh, she's telling it to the person who's reading because she trusts the reader with this information, if that makes sense. Also, I think to me, Jude is the first person that I knew that actually stood up to Cardan, and that's why he's so fascinated by her, because she's the first person to ever not take it from him, not take getting bullied by him. She kind of stands up for herself along and also stands up for Taran too. And my thoughts about that were kind of confirmed during the summer tournament, where Jude also said that, well, I guess I really am the first person that ever stood my ground against him. When we first meet Dane, I think he was rather suspicious to me, but Jude kind of sort of trusts him, but not fully. Then I think during one of their classes where they were studying the stars, and then Cardan wants them to move on to a different subject, Jude gets drugged and slash enchanted by forcibly being having the fairy fruit shoved down her throat by Valerian, Nicasia, and then also Cardan kind of participates. Nicasia kind of tells her to take her clothes off and then humiliate herself in front of the whole class. Then Locke kind of steps in and wants to take Jude away, but Cardan he pricks her finger so she can suck on the blood that has salt on there, because I think to me in a way wants to kind of protect her from Locke, because he might think that Locke might want to take advantage of Jude. Because she's under the whole enchanted of the fairy fruit stuff. And then to me, Locke kind of seemed sweet, but I was still kind of a little suspicious of him. And then I think later on we learned that Cardan smiles when he's nervous. He tells Jude that he smiles when he's nervous. That all happens like at the coronation, and he kind of opens up to Jude a little bit more. When Jude has a mission from Dane, like before the whole coronation, she goes to Hollow Hall, and she's like looking for information on, like, because Dane is thinking that there might be a coup that might be happening at the coronation. And so Jude kind of hides under this chair because she hears someone coming, and then it's actually Balkan. He and Cardan are like brothers, and so he kind of wants Cardan to beat up or hurt a human, but Cardan doesn't want to do it. And so Balkan punishes him by like whipping him or like hurting his back, because I know Jude said that she saw a bunch of scars that were on Cardan's back when he took off his shirt to receive his punishment for not doing what Balkan said. And then also we meet the Roach, Bomb, and the Ghost, who were like part of Dane's shadow squad. And to me they seemed kind of cool. And then Jude and Locke kind of has feelings for her, and then, quote, feelings, and Jude kind of has feelings for him too, but then they kind of like kiss while they're at, I think, his estate or something. Oh yeah, and then also when Jude is in Hollowed Hall, she goes into like Cardan's room and she finds a copy of Alice in Wonderland. And then that's the whole Jude thing that he writes. I also understood why Jude thought Cardan hated her, because if you're writing my name down a bunch of times, I would think you're like some sort of psycho. To me, I also think Valerian likes Jude, but he hates her, like hates her enough that he wants to keep trying to hurt her. And then when I think Locke invited his friends and Jude to like his party, and so Jude sees Cardan being like felt up by a bunch of these women, and Cardan just keeps his eyes on her, and then she keeps staring at Cardan, so they're kind of both staring at each other. And I said that yeah, he kind of keeps her eyes on her. He doesn't really acknowledge the women who are like feeling him up. Jude also like kisses Locke, like, but she doesn't want to, like, with her eyes closed, because she doesn't want to open, because she doesn't want to see who's staring at her, even if it's Cardan. And then I wrote down like Locke likes Jude, but in a more sinister, like, / manipulative way, because like to me he's like way obsessed with the story stuff. And then I think also in Hollowed Hall, where Jude kind of finds out that these letters are from like her father Maddox. He like wrote a bunch of letters asking, or no, Maddox wrote letters, I think, to Balkan or Dane. I don't remember, but basically the letters were saying like what knights would be at the coronation and what kind of formation they would be in, like where would they be at a certain time. And I found that to be kind of odd. And then also while Jude is back at Hollow Hall, she sees a human girl named Sophie who is under like the whole fairy fruit guy, you know, like the glamour stuff. And Jude kind of wants to save her, and so she does. She like forces salt down the girl's throat, and the Sophie's like freaking out because she doesn't remember how the heck she got here, or at Elfheim, because the last thing she remembers, she was like at Burning Man or something. And so Jude's like, well, we're gonna have to get you out of here. And so she takes Sophie back to her house and asks her older sister Vivi if she can help bring Sophie back to the human world. And so they get on their horses, and Sophie decides that she wants to end her time on her own terms. I mean, not really go back to the human world. She commits, basically, by falling off of the horse while they're in the air and into like this river where the current takes her under and all that. And Jude's kind of devastated by that. Like, she spent the whole night, her and her sister, trying to find her. And also, I think at Locke's party, like in the morning or like the next day, or I don't remember, but Nikasia kind of opens up to Jude. Like, she kind of warns Jude about Cardan a little bit. And also, after that whole incident with Sophie, Dane kind of finds out about it, and so he glamours her and he wants her to stab her hand, but then he kind of takes the glamour away, and she does it anyway because she thinks she's being tested by him. And then as we're getting closer to Dane's coronation, or the next king's coronation, Oriana, who's like Jude's not biological mother, but she's like a mother to her. Oriana tells Jude that she was the king's consort, and that all that she does is to protect her children, even though they're not blood related. And then Valerian tries to kill Jude in a room, but then Jude kind of kills him in self-defense, and she realizes what she did, and she's trying to save him because she doesn't want him to die. But unfortunately he succumbs to his injuries, and as he does so, he like curses her. For the time being, Jude like shoved his body underneath her bed before, and then later on she like buries him in her backyard or on the land of her home. Oh yeah, and then Jude kind of finds out Oak is Dane's biological son, and that would make him the next in line, the heir to the throne. And then at the coronation, Balkan, and Madak stage the coup. They kill... Balkan like kills his dad, the king. To me, I think that the king's death, even if it was gruesome, was still, to me, like a beautiful way to go. As he died, he like turned into all these bunch of fire moths. However, I think when Madak kills Dane, it's more graphic, because I think Madak and Dane were actually like really close, so it's kind of like, oh, I guess Madak really did hate him that much that his death is so violent. The rest of the family, like the sisters, they kill themselves, or they were killed by Balkan because they wouldn't crown him king, and so he's like desperately wanting to be crowned king, but however the people don't really support him. And then at the coronation, Cardan and Jude kind of meet up underneath like this table where they they meet up under the table, and then they're trying to get out, or they're trying to be free, and then before like Balkan can find them, and so Cardan and Jude kind of get out of the palace, and Cardan opens up to Jude a little bit more, telling her that he doesn't want any part of being a king, he just wants to leave. and he also like tells Jude that his family does not like him at all. And then like Jude kidnaps Cardan and has like the bomb roach and the ghost watch over Cardan while she's trying to figure things out on how she wants to play, like make her play or scheme. And then Jude kind of wants to make Cardan fear her the way that she is afraid of him, but he's like, he kind of is afraid, but he doesn't like really show it that much. And then Cardan and Jude kind of share their first kiss because Cardan is in love with her, and that he is sick of her because he hates the way that she makes him feel, and that he wants to be kissed by her until he's sick of it. And then after the whole kiss, Jude like keeps repeating that phrase over and over again because I think she's kind of realizing that, oh, I am kind of also developing these feelings, but I don't want to. And then Cardan kind of says that he didn't really want to hurt Jude, like he doesn't want to hurt her. But then Jude also finds out that Locke was using Jude to make Nicasia jealous because Nicasia and Cardan used to be a couple, but then Nicasia, I think, cheated on him or cheated on Cardan, and then now Locke was just using Jude to be with her sister Taran, and then they have this whole fight. And then after the whole fight between Taran and Jude like happened way before the coronation thing, and then after the whole coronation, Jude and Cardan are trying to like gather supporters for Oak's like reign, or because Jude doesn't want Balkan or Modoc to be in power, basically. And then like they have this moment where they're out on the grass, and then like Cardan kind of traces his finger along Jude's ear, because I don't know, I think he thinks that's like the best trait that she has. And then Jude does all this like diplomatic stuff while Cardan is waiting for her. And then I guess at a new party or something near the end of the book, Jude poisons like wine glasses, one for her dad, and then I think Balkan might have, and then Jude, maybe, I don't remember. But then I thought it was kind of cool how she was able to outsmart her father. And then Jude has Oak crown Cardan to be king of Elfhame. And that's pretty much it. And then, but I'll go more into what I think that means, why Jude did that, why she did that, and then why Cardan are so upset with her, and like during the whole character analysis portion of the video, which is next. Okay, so for the character analysis portion, I'm just gonna do a voiceover because I've written it all on my Google Docs, and it's just easier to read it that way because it's a lot of stuff. For Jude, I put she's a complex character. Does she have every right to be terrified about Cardan? Yes, she does. She literally saw him rip the wing off someone because they didn't bow to him. And so if he could do that, then what he can do like worse things to her, right? Is she a badass woman? Yes, she is. However, that's not all that she is. She can be vulnerable and she can be in love. She likes dressing up. She likes feeling pretty. She likes to fight. She's a trained swordswoman. She can be selfish and she can be manipulative. However, she can also be selfless, compassionate, and caring to those who she thinks deserve to be. To me, she's just trying to find her place or survive in a world that aren't nice to humans, aren't nice to mortals. And as much as she hates Cardan, she develops these feelings for him after the kiss. Like these feelings are starting to develop. Even she wanted more until she was sick of it. Every time they're like alone together, she thought, well, maybe the kiss will happen again. Who knows, right? Does it suck that in the end she betrayed Cardan after he told her that he does not want to be king? He wants nothing to do with it? Yes. But at the end of the day, that was the smartest move she could have done, right? Because Oak is Dane's son and then the next in line to the throne after he gets killed. However, Oak is a kid and he could be easily taken advantage of, right? Because I don't think he was trained yet in the whole how to, like, the political side, the diplomatic side of the whole thing. And so then Maddox would need to be his like advisor and make the decisions for him. And that also leaves Oak to be vulnerable because there could be some people who say that, yeah, they can bow to him, but then all of a sudden they turn around and say, no, I want to start a war and I want to assassinate this kid because he's weak, right? And then Belkin is another worse choice, considering he can do some pretty nasty things, considering he beat Cardan. Which brings me to my next point about Cardan, who is another complex character. He is the cruel prince for a reason. He hates Jude, right? He hates Jude so much that he actually loves her. However, he rips wings off of people who don't bow to him. He almost drowns Jude and Taran, and then he also participates in the whole fairy fruit thing. However, every time when Jude enters the room, his eyes are on Jude and on Jude only. He's intrigued by her because she's the first person to ever stand up against him. He allowed himself to trust her, and he allowed himself to be a little vulnerable with her. To me, was he scared to die when Jude held him at knife point? Maybe a little bit, he was. But he probably wouldn't have it any other way to die by the woman that he loves, right? He can also be cruel to those who disrespect him and loving to those who are not, or who don't disrespect him, or the people he cares about. And in the end, the one person who he opened up to just a little bit betrayed him by crowning him king, which is again something he didn't want. As for Nicasia and Valerian, I found out that Holly Black, the author, confirmed that Valerian was in love with Jude, and to me it all makes sense. So not only did he hate Jude, he's also kind of the opposite of Cardan. While Cardan hates and his hate and disgust of Jude is turning into love, Valerian's is just complete hatred and anger. He hates Jude so much that he's tried more than once to kill Jude. And as for Nicasia, she hates Jude, but to me, I also feel like she wants to be her friend, but doesn't know how to approach that, because remember, she's royalty, and also she's Fae, and they hate humans, mortals. So she has a reputation to uphold, and if people found out that Jude was being nice, or if Nicasia was being nice to Jude, then that wouldn't be very good for her reputation, because then rumors would spread. However, even though she hates her, she doesn't stop her from warning Jude, or giving her a little warning about, like, Cardan. As for Maddox and Oriana, Maddox loves his family, however, he loves power more, and he would go through whatever lengths that it could be to reach it. And even though Oriana may act cold, she is very protective of her children, even though they're not blood related to her, in her own way, and she just wants her children to be safe. As for Taran and Locke, I feel like all the problems could be solved if she just talked and listened to Jude. To me, she listens to Jude, but she's not hearing her, if you know what I mean. Like, she's kind of, like, Taran kind of found her place in Elfhame, while Jude is kind of struggling between the human worlds and Elfhame, where Jude is kind of stagnant in between, where she feels like she doesn't really belong in either. While Vivi, the oldest, kind of is with the human world because she found a girlfriend named Heather, and Vivi never really had a connection in Elfhame. Taran also doesn't really defend Jude as much as Jude defends her. She just wants Jude to apologize every time she stands up to being bullied. And thinking all would be well if Jude just apologizes, when in reality it sometimes can make it worse than it would make it better. And also, when she chooses Locke over Jude, to me that kind of means that she's symbolizing herself choosing Elfhame over her sister. As for Locke, I'm not going to talk about him. I don't want that little weasel to think he gets a part in this story, if you know what I mean. Overall, I really enjoyed The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I remember, I think a long time ago, I saw Cardan and Jude's fan art on Tumblr, and so I told myself that once I get a job one day, that I would buy this book and read it, because I was curious about it. And so now that I've read it, I've rated this book infinity stars. I really liked the world building and the whole political, the main plot with the political stuff. And also Cardan and Jude are some of my favorite characters. Would I recommend this book? I would. I think if you love the whole political plot to like books, I would recommend this book. And also, if you like enemies to lovers, which is more of a subplot in this book, I would suggest you read it. If you also like fae and whatnot, then I would also recommend this book. But that's pretty much it that I'm going to talk about. So if you liked this video, then please leave a like. If you read this book, or if you hadn't read this book, and if you want to talk about it in the comments, please leave a comment and just talk about what you liked or what you didn't like about this book, who your favorite characters are, what characters you don't like. And then I think next time I'm going to be talking about the second book in the Folk of the Air series, called The Wicked King. So please look forward to that one. And that's it. Bye, friends.